Emery, good morning or good afternoon, sir.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Nice to see you, Paul.
Always a pleasure.
Um,
How was your week off?
it was productive. It wasn't a vacation week, but it was a organization week, which is actually was more important for me at this stage. I actually didn't really need. I've been pretty much in paradise, so I didn't really need like an escape to the mountains because I'm actually living on the mountain. But I did need time to get out of a bunch of meetings and get into some um, headspace that let me sort of think through a bunch of things. We did a bunch of reorganization with some like my sort of day job, the two main companies I'm working on, which are agencies, and then we had some HR stuff that we needed to deal with that was long overdue. So yeah, it was awesome. I feel a lot more organized. I feel a lot less scattered. So that's
Awesome.
that. So I think I think it worked. I think that week really helped. Yeah, and I actually did get some. I shouldn't lie. I did get some sun, and I got some. I went on a couple of hikes and hanging out. Higher up on the mountain, we'll say. But yeah, it was cool. It was a great week.
Oh, that's
Enjoying
excellent.
it. Yeah, the weather's nice down here. It's still winter, but winter down here, you know, basically doesn't really look like winter in most places. It's
Yeah, what a
it's
terrible looking
pretty much
winter
looks like
from up
summer.
here in Canada. Yeah.
It looks like summer, right? But it feels like summer most of the time. But yeah, we're in rainy season, so it's kind of like little rain every couple of days. But yeah, it's great. Yeah,
Awesome.
can't complain.
So, what is
How about
on the
you? How was
agenda?
your week? How was your
Oh,
week?
it's a week. Like every week ends up being the same yet different,
Okay.
sort of with my job, right? Like, the companies
Hmm.
are going great. Everything's awesome.
Yeah.
Susahosh has been chugging away on a bunch of stuff as always. So, like, it was just honestly, like, the last 7 days were good. I mean, I'm not going to
Brilliant.
say that we had as much fun without you here last week on the stream, but I mean, between Carlos, Susahosh, and I think we had a pretty good time.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, you know what? I missed you guys. I know was only a week, but it's always fun to do this. And it actually, I mean, I don't know if you guys talked about this as much last week as maybe some of the recent conversations I've had. But I know that there's been a lot of great feedback that we're getting from the EIRs in terms of like how we could be more involved with them on these streams. So
Yeah.
I think that that's something that definitely we're gunning for. And moving forward, I think there's a little bit of structural things that we can update folks on. Anybody who's watching, anyway, anybody who's watching, nice to see you guys, and or have you present. And so basically, one of the things that we talked about, Paul, was different conversations I've had. I think I've had some with you as well, but we've been talking about sort of like how do we make it more interactive. I know people have been able to come on and chat about different things, but not as much as I think we'd like to see. A big part of that is just trying to get the content that we're trying to share across to the EIRs, and obviously sharing it out here on this so that it can be utilized. I think has been a bit of a challenge because we start running out of time, right? And we've experimented with a few different options. One option being, hey, let's shorten the lessons, and then I'm reluctant to do that because I'm like, well, how do we actually you know convey certain information without having enough time to do so. So I think we came up with a pretty good plan. I think collectively, I mean, a lot of feedback, a lot of conversations between the coaches and EIRs suggesting some great ideas. So I think what's happening based on our conversation on Tuesday, which we had, was that we're going to and subsequently on Wednesday we had another coaching call. I think the consensus is that what we're going to do is basically record a lot of the like fundamental lessons. I'm going to kick it off this weekend, so I'm going to do a recording session tomorrow on a deep dive on product research and sourcing, and hopefully I'll try to get one other one in as well. We're doing some marketing stuff. We agreed to do Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube Shorts, and I'm probably missing one. TikTok. So like, there's a couple of things that Carla's going to be doing and recording. I'm going to record half of them as well. And then we also are going to do something on. I talked to Susahash yesterday. We're going to do something on recording. He's going to do a Shopify, setting up a Shopify store, and I'm going to
Yep.
do setting up a WordPress store. So I think that's going to be cool because now we can kind of get that information sort of recorded. It can get uploaded. People can access it whenever they need it. But it sort of lets us use this time to be a little bit more interesting for the EIRs and for hopefully for people that are watching, anybody else who's watching, because we can actually get folks in and giving their updates and presenting what they're working on. So that's a little more interesting for them as opposed to sort of sitting here and just watching some talking heads, explain, the next steps or whatever, right? So I think we're in pretty good shape. It took us a while to get to this, but I'm feeling good about it. I know that there's also been a bunch of stuff happening in the background. That's great, in terms of getting us sort of more organized with some of the social media stuff we want to do and other marketing stuff as it relates to Darkhorse, and then just getting the coaches and the EIRs all comfortable with whatever objectives that each of us have within the program. So so it's been pretty cool to see all this come together. A little bit longer probably than any of us wanted, but it's Kaizen. It's continuous learning, continuous improvement.
Yep, absolutely. Let me bring the other coaches in here. We have Susahosh and Carla who are joining us today, I think, up here.
Awesome. And I see Shamsia and Rachel on the stream. So nice to see you guys. Welcome to Friday at Darkhorse. Hey,
hello,
how's
everyone.
it going, guys? Hey, Carla. I love the what do you call? I'm sorry, I'm so stupid
Tiara.
with names of things. Tiara. Thank you. I was
No,
looking for the word.
it's not one.
Okay.
It's a hairband.
Oh,
It's a
it
hairband.
looks like a tiara
Yeah.
from
But I'll take tiara.
Yeah,
fine.
cool. Very nice, very nice. I'm liking the look.
Thank you. Growing out
Yeah,
of
I feel like
training.
you're celebrating something this weekend. Is there some news that you any exciting new events? Like last week, it was like my book. Now what's the or the week before when we talked? Anything
Nothing
new
new,
going on?
yeah.
No.
No.
No,
I know I work a
no
lot
exciting
and stuff,
announcements.
but no.
Mm,
Definitely not.
cool.
No, that would be fantastic, though, of announcing a book one week and then next week be like, super side note, guys, I have a second book I've also completed because I couldn't fit it into one.
No, well, I bought a domain name.
Oh,
If
excellent.
that counts.
That
sell
totally
the
counts.
one. So I got appropriate domain name. But I think that's probably the biggest update.
It's a pretty epic title. I don't know if you've shared it, but or if it's a surprise, but it's a pretty epic title. I know when you told it to me, I was like, okay, that's it. You mic drop right after you told me. So I was like, very cool.
I was also quite impressed with myself there.
Yeah. Well, what's the title? I'm sure there's folks that haven't heard it. So what's the title?
Yeah, I think I only shared it with you guys, but it's Mindfucked by Marketing.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
Yep.
And it does feel like that if you're in marketing, guys, it absolutely feels like that most of the time. So it's such an appropriate title for any of us who are in the business. So good. Cool. Susahosh, what's going on, man? Why are you always looking like you're hiding out in a bunker when I see you on these calls? Are you hiding out in a bunker? Are you in the hills? Like, are you planning a raid?
Are you planning a raid? Lighting. But yeah, it's interesting.
You're like, I'm taking over this other agency. We're going in. We're going in this weekend.
I'm good, man. I'm good. Just chugging away at different things. But yeah, it's good. Keeping busy.
Nice. I know you've been probably doing a lot of that fun stuff on the computer that I think they call it coding. You've been doing some of that stuff. Has that been a little bit of your life these last couple of days? Yeah.
It's been my life for the last.
Tell me how that how that's going.
It's good. We have some exciting projects we're working on, so I'm excited. Yeah. Absolutely.
You're well beyond us with the 2 finger taps at this point.
Yeah.
I'm still on one.
One finger, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get all of them in. You gotta get all of them in.
Start using your nose when you need to, right? Just depends on how aggressive you want to get.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Well, enough silliness. Let's bring in some serious folks. Do we have any ERs that we're going to be chatting with today?
That's a great question.
Any volunteers? Anybody wants to come in and join us and get on the hot seat? I'm sure you're tired of listening just to coaches, like with all of our, guru like wisdom, sharing that all the time. It's just going to blow your mind. Eventually, you want to kind of come in and replace us. So let's see if anybody wants to join us. I'm waiting for volunteers. I'm waiting for volunteers. I'm going to sit here and say nothing for as long as it takes for a volunteer.
Oh, finally! All right,
Oh.
this is what I've been waiting for.
It's like that game you play, like who breaks first.
Well, in the meantime, while I'm shutting up and waiting for the volunteers, I actually do
we
have a
almost
question for
made
you
it
guys.
30 seconds. It was so close to a new record.
Well, I couldn't. The silence was torturing me. I felt alone.
Yeah.
So I needed to speak again. Okay, so I have some questions while we're waiting for the volunteers to pretty themselves up to get on the call or whatever they're doing, or not get on the call. Who knows? Maybe we end up hanging out with each other for the next little while. By the way, guys, I'm trying to get as much in as possible because I actually have to excuse myself early. So I might be out of here. I have to go to a meeting in about 45 minutes. I know it's a little bit awkward to say that during the live stream, but hey, that's reality. That's sort of what happens sometimes when you can take a week off of meetings. they start collapsing in on each other. One of the things that we were talking about is in the last, guys, I know Susash and Carla, we had this conversation recently. We were talking about I don't want to say accountability, but sort of like, how do we balance, making the program, that we're currently building around this sort of idea here of empowering entrepreneurs and trying to get them, out of the gate with maybe in most cases their first project ever, that's commercial, at least, as it relates to entrepreneurship. How do we get the balance of wanting them to sort of keep pace with sort of our expectations and, be really involved and, for example, be, on all these calls, be on anything that's going on, but at the same time, make it so as an entrepreneur, you want to have the freedom to be able to do things in your own time, in your own manner. I struggle with that, honestly. Like, I'm sort of struggling with that with this program. And so I thought it would be like a good sort of open conversation maybe to have when we had time, and it looks like we've got time. So what do you guys think? Like, is there something else we can be doing to sort of make it, because there's clearly folks that are in the program that I think are, always, involved in a lot of the different things that are going on. And then there's other folks I see that are less involved. It's just that simple, right? And there's like the strict, I'm thinking of parents, right? Got different parents or whatever. It's like there's the strict parents that are like come down really hard on you when you're not as committed or not as active. And then there's like other parents that are like, it's unconditional love, right? It's like, whatever, you just do whatever you want to do and you'll figure it out in your own time. I had both parents, sort of. So I'm stuck in the middle. I have no idea what's the right way to do that. And I'm not a parent yet myself, so I have no idea. And I probably shouldn't be relating parenting to managing entrepreneurs, but that's the closest thing I can think of. So anyway, like, what do you guys think about all that? Am I overthinking this? Probably am. I normally overthink everything, but am I overthinking this?
No, no. Yeah.
Not you.
Maybe a little bit. A little overthinking. Okay, fair enough.
I think that it's really difficult overall, right? Because even so, at the incubator, we have, I'd say, I'm not going to say most, but a lot of the people that we work with consistently are, first-time founders. And, I know you and I had this conversation many, many months ago, Emery, of, just the amount of work or the inherent knowledge that we've sort of picked up and collected along the way is significant. And, we make a lot of assumptions towards what should be sort of, knowledge that should exist somewhere, because the people that we talk to, the people we surround ourselves with, these are all people that, generally have the same or roughly the same foundational knowledge. We do. Looking back when I started my first company, I was an idiot. Like, I didn't know anything, but I thought I knew everything, kind of thing, right? So I think that when it comes to actually looking at the program, it's a really fine balance between talking about everything and sending individuals away to go do homework and come back with like basic concepts and foundational things. And it's difficult because there's so much of it, right? Like when you look at product development, and I think Susash and I have talked about this, whether it's tech or like an actual consumer good or whatever it is, like there's not really a path of like, here are your 4 steps to creating a great product. Like that doesn't really work. So I feel like having to add context into everything is a huge challenge, right? So you have organizations like Batters Institute that I also work with. They're everywhere. They do a bunch of things, but they're a lot more hands off from a central infrastructure perspective, and they sort of rely much heavier on the coaches to add context and answer questions and whatever else. But I mean, they've been around for decades, and they have thousands upon thousands of people that have gone through and mentors and whatever else, right? So it's a really tough balance to add context that is correct, kind of consistently, if that makes any sense. I think that's where the balance really kind of has to end up, and it ties, unfortunately, into sort of the failure of the dropout rate. Because realistically, you have to target a specific area, right? Like you have to have sort of a specific niche or a specific person or type or personality or whatever it is that you generally aim towards. I mean, I know that we were looking for more, consumer-facing things. E-commerce is sort of our profile, but I mean, like Susash, I'm going to toss this to you in a second. We've always looked at the type of entrepreneur, about who the people are, opposed to what the product is. And I know that you sort of had about the same philosophy as well, Emery, not having to have a company coming in and whatever else. But I know that from our perspective, that's sort of been top of the list. But we also were just very thorough in terms of due diligence of the platform of like, okay, well, if you've done the basic foundational level of work, cool. Like, that's fine with us. But then the most important thing is, what does your personality look like? How do you manage all of this? And it's not about being up and constant and achieving everything constantly. It's about overcoming regardless of the circumstances. But one of those circumstances is not time, if that makes any sense. Like, it's just kind of how you get to the end of the hike, not how fast you get there.
Right. See, I just kind of want to add to that, like Paul kind of touched on it, that what we learned, I guess, over the last few years of doing what we do at Meta Eye is that it's the process of curating the right people. I think that's the hardest part, because entrepreneurship is hard. It's hard. You have to be consistently at something for years on with nothing in return, right? It's extremely hard. So majority of people, I think that's why the dropout rate is so high, because a lot of people think that, hey, you know what, this is something exciting, I want to do it. But when you get into the weeds of it, it's not as glamorous, right? Like, when you look at something like, like TV shows or something, and you're like, oh my God, so-and-so got $1 million or whatever. You see that it seems exciting. It's almost entertainment. But the funny thing is that, even shows like that are, cut and edited to make like highlights, whereas the actual presentations are like, hours long, and it's actually grueling, right? So that's the challenge, is that, entrepreneurship.
I don't know. I think you're doing it wrong, Susash. I don't know. This has been incredibly glamorous. What are you talking about?
No, so
are you seeing my backdrop? What do you mean, man?
No, but
No,
wow.
I agree. I actually have to agree with that. Yeah, unfortunately.
So,
as much as I would love to say that my life is a highlight reel, it clearly is not.
Yeah, I mean, look, there are points and moments. If you take those points and you just focus on those, yeah, it's fucking amazing. That's why we're here. That's why the journey is so fun. But the thing is, like,
it's a roller coaster ride.
Yeah, in between there's so much stuff that it's just grinding work, and perseverance is key, I think, because a lot of people are just not they don't persevere, and also focus. A lot of people are all over the place, and when you lose focus, you don't move like the needle forward. It kind of just spins at the same spot, and that does not help. So I think it's a combination of those things. So in a way, Darkhorse, I think, is an opportunity for people to figure out, really, is this right for them, right? And that's why we're here. I think, like, we're giving people that opportunity to learn from those who are experienced, and see others move forward and figure out if that's right for them. And it doesn't have to be for everyone. It doesn't have to be for everyone. I think that's also important to recognize.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, no, I think that you're hitting the nail on the head. I don't know if it helps knowing all this though, because I do agree with everything that you both have said, and I'd love to hear Carla's feedback on this too. But even knowing all that, it doesn't really change my ill ease at the attrition rate as a good example, and just sort of I guess just being in it, it still seems like, is there a way to hack that so that that's not the case? But you're right. I don't think there is necessarily a way. Like when I do look at even managing or joining other accelerators, when we had some in one of my previous businesses, and then just joining some other projects earlier on in my career, yeah, like I was always shocked at like what's the attrition rate was just really high, and it didn't make sense to me, because I'm like, like what else? What's the alternative?
I think I mean,
what's the alternative to this? Like
it's
I don't understand.
personality, right?
Yeah.
It's personality. It's finding the right entrepreneur, and I feel like if you bet on the right entrepreneur, like then it works, because they're gonna have all those check boxes, and then then it'll be more successful. I think that's one of the most important part, is that having the right, betting on the right horse.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
Well, even something like YC, the model still works under the 80 to 90% failure rate for VC funded startups, right? Like that's baked into the model from day one. So the assumption is out of 100 companies, you'll have 10 to 20 generally that will be a long-term success, that'll go IPO, that'll exit, that go through M&A process or something of the sort, right? Like it's really kind of a small margin to look at what the metric for success is in sort of a given industry, right? Like Moonshot Brand has come out recently. Their whole thing is buying e-commerce and retail plays. Like that's all that they do, is they'll hack, like they'll top in or log into your Amazon store. They can look at all the metrics and they'll make you an offer in 24 hours to buy your business. That's it.
Amazing.
That's all
which
that they do now. Moonshot, they came through YC.
Oh, cool.
And then promptly were worth a ton of money.
So you're saying they're competing directly with our Moonshots in the Darkhorse program?
I'm so disappointed in you.
It's a race to the finish. Finish. Okay. Carla, how's it going? What do you think?
Good,
what do you think? What can we do to, are we charging enough money? Maybe that was really the question I should have asked.
Are we charging any money though? Maybe we should. I don't know.
Well, yeah, it's an incentive, right? To say, hey, this is we could market it as a pay to play thing, right? And then we could take out a mortgage on people's homes and say, hey, like we'll give you the mortgage back when you get through the program successfully. I mean, there's so many options. But what do you think? What's the in reality? What's the solution here, or is there one?
Everyone just gave opinions, and what's the solution to me?
Well, you're the answer. That's like your nickname for me. It's like Carla the answer.
Well, on this topic specifically, I would love to hear some feedback from the EIRs that are actually in the program.
Okay.
Because we are on the one side of the fence, as coaches, but the EIRs might see things completely differently. But with everything that you guys said, I agreed with mostly, not so much with everything you say.
I want to know what you didn't agree with. I think that's more interesting.
No, like charging people or getting mortgages on their house.
No,
it's going to be a no from me.
Didn't feel it?
Okay. No.
Fair enough.
Well, the good news is we have two of our EIRs that have hopped backstage in the midst of all of this.
Okay, awesome. Would be great to hear what they have to say.
Excellent.
Can we fit them both in? The windows seem to be crowding most of the space here, Paul. Is there a way for you to manipulate this so that we could fit them in?
Sure. It's not like I have this fantastically customizable like breakdown of how I can organize screens, or I've custom it. I have 5 buttons, and it's just like, all right, well, it's gonna look kind of like this, maybe.
So it's like a SpaceX vehicle. What do you mean? Like that's all you need, 5 buttons?
Yeah, that was the big thing about the Falcon series rockets, right? It was all the autopilot feature just really did it in. There's not even a steering wheel anymore. Okay, let's see how this kind of looks over the span of things.
Wow.
Give me 1 second.
Magic user. Wow, love it.
Wow.
Impressive. Hi,
Two
everybody.
home buttons.
Hi.
Killing it over here.
Hello.
Hi,
Hey, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
Nice to see you both.
Thank you. Nice to see you all.
Were you coordinating outfits and backdrops? Because nobody gave me the memo. Nobody gave me the memo.
Great minds think alike.
I would have joined in on this, by the way, if I had known.
Actually,
I
it's
think
Rachel is
all
different today.
He also has the black thing going. It's a theme.
Oh, so you're on Team Paul, clearly, Rachel and Shamsia, right? You're on Team Paul.
Yeah, it seems like
so
it.
anything you say today, it's going to be agreeing with Paul, and then we're going to be on the other side of this.
I mean, these are my frivolous Walmart pandemic purchases where they were like 4 T-shirts for $8 on sale. I was like, well, I should probably buy like 40 or 50 of them then.
Nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how are you two doing? Nice to see you.
Good. Yeah. Nice to see you too.
Awesome. How is Friday treating you now that you're back in London, Rachel?
I'm in Windsor technically. Well, actually,
Windsor. I'm
technically
sorry.
now I'm in Muskoka, but I was back
even
in
better.
Windsor.
Nice.
Yeah, just for the weekend. So yeah, it's great. It's nice. It's sunny. It's warm
Awesome.
out. Can't complain.
Do you have a cottage? Is that what you kind of do in Muskoka? Are you going to do you do water sports, or what's the story up in Muskoka these days?
Yeah, my family just has like a cabin up here. So I just like to come up, get away from, city life and all that and just enjoy nature.
Awesome. Is that where is Susahash hanging out in your cottage basement right now, or what's...
It looks like it, right?
He probably doesn't even know.
He's actually not sure where he is. He hasn't been up for years.
I've been stuck
You
indoors
can't
for
remember.
I don't remember days, months. What is the time now?
Rachel's probably
if
thinking,
it's not on the keyboard, I don't care. I don't care.
yeah.
Yep.
Rachel's probably thinking I gotta go check my basement now. Oh my.
How are you, Shamsia?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you. It was
Awesome.
nice. Yeah, Friday's a good time, right, for everyone, and the weather's been really good. But I do see the leaves changing color and hoping that the fall brings good things for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or those
absolutely,
leaves already changing? It's only August.
No,
Where did the
making-
summer go?
It goes fast, right? It goes fast
Yeah.
in Canada. Yeah,
Absolutely.
Although fall is really beautiful. It actually used to be my favorite season, just because of the color, and also I really liked fall clothes back in the day. When I was more into fashion. Now I just like hoodies. So I'm all over fashion. All right. Anyway, so let's talk about something more entrepreneurial. We just posed a question around. This is a startup that's sort of working with awesome entrepreneurs like yourselves, or aspiring entrepreneurs, and we wanted to sort of just get a sense of what we could do better to sort of ensure that everybody is motivated to stay, sort of the course, and then also be accountable to themselves and accountable to the program. So, I mean, I think that we've got a lot of really awesome, really talented, aspiring entrepreneurs in the program right now, and they're working on some really cool things. But, I just sense that there might not always be the consistency that I would assume there would be, when I'm participating in certain things, right? So, what do you guys think? Or maybe, like I said, I'm probably overthinking it, but what do you guys think? Is it a situation where it might be the structure? It might be like sort of, something along those lines. Is it a situation where it's just going to be, the way it is? I know that there is like a high sort of turnover rate with like some of the other accelerators I've been a part of. We have a fairly small group, considering like a lot of the accelerators I've sort of been, studied or been part of in any respect have had, dozens of folks, if not, more, right? Even up to hundreds of folks in one cohort, right? And so we're obviously a lot smaller than that. So I guess maybe I feel it more when one person isn't, around. I'm like, wow, like I can tell, I can feel it. So again, I took a week away, and then I sort of came back, and I do see that, there's folks that are just like less active, right? So what do you guys think? Am I overthinking? Is this something that is it as a somebody going through the program, is it something that maybe bothers you, or does it matter? Is there any difference at all? I'm just curious.
That was so many questions, Emery.
That's just the first 3 or 5 or whatever. I have so many more after that.
How many questions you've gone through in the same paragraph? It's a bit much.
Was it a lot? Okay. Well, you could pick any one of those questions to answer.
Rachel, you go first. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I don't know.
It's from my debating classes that I'm using this, like, confuse you so that you always answer the wrong question, and then I win the debate. But I'm sorry. I'll pick one question to ask you, Rachel.
Can we maybe put your questions on the screen as you speak? Keep track.
Paul, do you want to like transcribe my questions?
No,
yeah, that's fine with me.
So my one question is, how can we make more consistent programs so that people last the course? That's sort of one question I have, and then the other one is, how are you, like, does it bother you guys? That's the second question.
Sure. Yeah. I don't know if this will 100% answer your question, but I guess these are just my thoughts, I guess, kind of based on everything you said. I think for a lot of people, and I don't want to speak for others, but, entrepreneurship is hard, as you guys said. And a lot of times it's hard to know what to do, right? It's like really hard to know where to start. And it's like, you can get a lot of really great, valuable information, but at the end of the day, like, there's really no playbook. So you kind of have to figure it out on your own. And I think for some people, it's like very challenging. So I don't know if maybe that's the reason why they, it's like, I just don't really know what to do. So they get overwhelmed, and then they just don't really do anything that week. And then they might feel bad, like, oh, I have no updates. So like, I don't want to have to share that I have no updates. That's just like kind of what I could see happening, because sometimes I feel that way. Like, oh, I didn't accomplish enough this week. I didn't really know what to do. I got overwhelmed. So I didn't do half the things on my to-do list. And what was your second question? It was, how do you feel about it? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like, it's nice to feel like we're all in this together. And even if you didn't accomplish anything, I'd be okay to just be like, I feel overwhelmed. I didn't know what to do. And like, this is how I'm feeling, because the chances are, I bet you a lot of other people are feeling that way. So I think just like being honest and admitting it is like totally fine. And by the way, you guys are like the most like easygoing people. Like, you're all so nice. Like, I wouldn't feel like scared to admit that like I didn't succeed at something. So it's not anything on you at all. Like, I think you guys have all been like very supportive and like very encouraging. I just think entrepreneurship is hard, and we're all so new at it that there's just a very steep learning curve. And I imagine too, like, I'm not in this position, but for the people that were given a business, like just handed over a folder with information, like I can't even imagine how to start with that. Whereas at least for my business, like, I started it myself, so I kind of already knew how things worked, and I was really in the weeds and everything from day one. So I feel like my case is a little bit different than maybe some of the other EIRs, but I feel like Shamsi is probably could answer that a lot more better than I could. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll just take it from there. When as you said, we were just handed the folders, and it's like, I feel like it's a privilege, and we need to make the best use of this opportunity. That's my thinking. I can't speak for anybody else, but I feel like, why would you not work on this? Why would you not attend these sessions? It's and I feel like these questions are not asked by our lovely coaches, who are very sweet and lenient all the time, and because that's what anyone else would do. I mean, I come from India, and Indian, the education system is like, they're always on our backs and, getting us to do things. And even here, when I was enrolled in the diploma course, our teachers were like, okay, they were quite strict. They're treating us like kids. Of course, y'all are not going to do that. So I feel like most of the time it's self-motivated. So it has to come from within. So you have to find the purpose as to why you're in here. Why did you join this? And I feel like there is a lot of expectation from you all that is not heard by the entrepreneurs and residences. I mean, we need to know that, yes, you expect this, you want to see this, this is the result. I mean, that would probably be something that might bring in more involvement. It does bother me because I like to feel the energy. I want to feel the, I want to be able to see people do more, because that kind of gives you like, okay, you know what, they've done this, so I need to do that. I need to up my game. There has to be people I need to look up to and, match. If there's just 2 or 3 people, then it kind of like the playing field is not as energetic as I would want it to be. I mean, that's the whole purpose of having so many cohorts, and there's so many business models out here. So would like to see how it all unfolds eventually, and someone's problem could be my solution. My problems, could help someone find their solutions. So I just like, we need to feed into each other, which is which with the less involvement, it kind of becomes very kind of discouraging for sure.
Yeah.
I have a question. Like, do you guys find that the tasks or things that you're kind of given, do you think that it's something that's doable within the time frame we're giving you guys, or is that too much, too little, too discouraging, or too like what is your feeling? Like, how do you guys feel?
I think the tasks are doable within the time. Like, I haven't had any challenge getting the assignments done. I think it's just more the larger picture, right? It's like, okay, we only have 6 months. Like, we have to like get this business launched, making money. Like, I think that's the overwhelming part. Like, the actual like specific tasks, once they're broken down, are really manageable. At least for me.
Right.
I completely agree. It's a larger picture, because ultimately these tasks will help you get there. Some people might do all the tasks together, or some might just break it down, whatever. It's the end result that is important. And sometimes I feel like if you don't take these steps one at a time, how are you going to reach there? And how is your end result going to be? Because I'm sure if you put in your effort in each of those steps, you would get a better result at the end. Ultimately, you build something for yourself in the journey.
Yeah, I think Shamsia brought up a good point about being self-motivated, because even if you're not in a program like this and you want to start a business and be an entrepreneur, like, you have to be self-motivated. You especially have to if you don't have any structure at all, because everything comes down to you and like you making decisions. So if you just sit on it, it's not going to go anywhere. So like, you just have to come into it and know that, like, really at the end of the day, like, people can give you advice and a bit of structure, but it has to be you that executes on it, or it's not going to go anywhere, regardless of how many mentors or coaches that you have.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
that's great feedback. Thank you.
Just to add on to that, like the last week, I had this one person who reached out to me, and she wanted to know what the entire program was all about, because she probably was looking at some online coaches who charge like 2,000, 8,000, 10,000, and she's so desperate. She just wants to join one of those courses because she wants to become an entrepreneur. She wants to let go of her 9-to-5 job, not because she doesn't enjoy it, because she feels so exhausted by the end and she doesn't have time for families, and she wants to make something for herself. So I feel like we've had it really lucky here. We, as you said, we are not paying anything, and we are given this playing field to actually experiment and maybe and not even be scared to fail, because it's okay. That's the entire model that prevails here. And I sort of explained it to her, and she was quite excited. But I don't know why, if you are in the program, you would not really make use of the tools that you've been given, literally given, hand given.
I think there's a couple of things that I feel like I need to interject slightly on too. In terms of a to-do list, I think my to-do list, since I got back into sort of entrepreneurship, has been going on for like 4 years now after my break. I don't think I've actually completed it since. Like, it's an ongoing list of like, honestly, like, I look at it every morning, like, okay, well, what do I need to prioritize? When do I have meetings? What do I need to do? And like, the list will just kind of get done whenever it gets done at this point, because like, that's kind of all of the options I have. But it's interesting because like, I know that Emery and I are working on a couple of projects together. Susash and I work on everything together, and Carla's just awesome. But I don't think I'm working on anything with her right now. But the way that I think that I function, at least outside of this program, is not as happy and jolly as I apparently am. So thank you for that, by the way. In the midst of these phone calls and whatnot, because like Susahash and I on a daily basis, like we have tons of tough discussions. We have a lot of really sort of insane things, especially in the last couple of weeks that we've been dealing with. And I think that we're almost looking at this as like a bit of a release valve where we get to just sort of talk about our experiences and what we're doing. So I don't know if it's a matter of us, if it makes more sense for us to be a bit more strict or to be a bit more specific with what we're looking for in deliverables. Like, even my whole thing a few weeks ago was like just talking to everyone as loudly as possible, of like, reach out, have a conversation with me. And I believe both of you did at some point about things. And I think that was it. I think that you were the only two. Oh, an extension. I will give extension credit as well, because he was awesome. Out of like the 15-ish people that we had, trying to push them to do specific things felt like it didn't work, at least from my perspective. And like, I have no idea how to fix that. I know that being an entrepreneur is lonely as shit. It sucks. I've been doing this for a long time, and it is like the only person you can rely on generally is yourself. And like, do either of you have any idea on how to bridge that a little bit, or what would work for even just you two? Like, any thoughts at all on that side?
Not really, because I kind of feel like we try to be as involved as we can. So I don't feel like I'm missing anything, like personally, right? Like I, participate in the live sessions, like do the assignments, I'm working on my business. So I don't know, like for me, like I do feel like I'm getting something out of it. So I almost feel like I'm not the right person to ask. I don't know if Shamsi feel that way. But,
I sometimes feel overwhelmed. I sometimes feel overwhelmed by the task that's given to us, because sometimes I'm like, oh, there's so much more I have to do. So it's not like there's anything missing. We have been given, and I think Emery has even given us a schedule for the coming few weeks. So we are in a good place. We have a lot of work. We have a lot of things to do. I feel like we just have to start doing them. Maybe it's the lack of, we don't see results. Maybe there's no accountability, or maybe things of that sense probably could be a little like, okay, you can just take it a little easy. I don't know, really. I don't understand that. I mean, I have to do this. I sometimes even get scared if I'm not seeing messages on Slack. And I'm like, do I have to go up and down to see have I missed out something? So I'm sort of one of those kind of people. Yeah. So.
Oh, it's the same for me. I don't think I got Slack notifications almost at all yesterday. And I'm like, is everything okay? Is my internet working?
Well, one of the things that I'm going to say is I actually think you hit the nail on the head, Rachel, when you said, you're probably not the right people to be asking this, because you guys are both very involved in all aspects of the program. We have actually somebody that I'm going to add her comments, because I think she's bringing up some really good points, and I'd like to address them. So Thula, thank you, Thula, for joining the live stream. So she mentioned a couple of things. So she says, I'm unable to go live, but I'd love to make a contribution. I personally feel like there isn't a rigid structure, content, task duration, feedback. I was excited about the curriculum, but feel like I haven't followed it, and it makes it difficult to see the bigger picture that Shamsi and Rachel are referring to. Scared the new structure might be even worse because it has no specific dates. Oh, sorry, my computer just went crazy.
Excellent.
I lost you guys. 1 second. Found you again. Okay. Oh, come on. I've got to turn off all my notifications at this point. Okay, so basically, the last thing she said is, scared the new structure might be even worse because there is no specific dates for particular topics. Hope that makes sense. And then, and another thing, in the live stream aspect, the numbers have been underwhelming. Oh my gosh, I don't know what's going on with this computer. The numbers have been underwhelming. Sorry, guys. Having more people to join the stream would really increase interaction. So yeah, so I mean, I'd like to address that a little bit. So thank you, Thula. I think that these are honest, heartfelt comments. So I'll throw it back a little bit, because I'm a little facetious that way. You're not joining the live stream today for whatever reason. So if you were, it would make the interaction even better, right? So like there is sort of I'm always assuming like extreme responsibility. So I agree with you. I think there's like we've made a lot of changes in the program in terms of like where we're fitting content and how we're sort of rolling it out. And it definitely hasn't been as strict and regimented as you're saying. So I agree with all of that. I think you're making some good points there. It is something we've addressed internally, and we've tried to both react to the progress that we're seeing from the folks, and like the sort of the feedback that I'm getting a lot is around basically, these are the areas that we need the most help with, and so we've sort of addressed that. And then there's been some other things that we've introduced that were not on the original agenda. But that being said, the reason why we've actually wanting to switch the structure is that we're just realizing that there's not enough time to fit all three things that we want to do into the program. And this has just been like the nature of coming up with two our blocks, right? So we have the Tuesday and then the Thursday, and we want to have, on Friday, and we want to have it basically where it is interactive. And so by the time you get through conversations, presentations, and feedback and all of that stuff, there's not enough time, especially for the entire group. Now there is for like a smaller group of us, right? So if we only had like one or two, folks presenting each week, and we only had one or two folks like, sort of on these calls, that would be a different story. But because that's not the case, and we actually, oftentimes have to get through, up to 15 folks, it's just, we realize, and that's just our bad, not having done this before, not realizing that there isn't enough time to get everything in that we wanted to get in, right? And then even when we do present a lot of the work, it doesn't get completed. People choose not to do certain things, right? So I'm not sure if you've completed everything through a lot, but I know that there is folks in the program that have not completed everything. So when we do assign tasks, they just don't get done, or people like push them off. They have things come up in life, and they say, well, I'm gonna do this a week later or 2 weeks later. So we've been very flexible with that, thinking that that's probably very entrepreneurial of them to be like, hey, look, I'm just gonna move this to where it's gonna make the most sense for me. But I hear what you're saying. I mean, and that's where I'm struggling as well, because should we be more rigid? So for example, if people don't complete tasks, should they be allowed to stay in the program? I guess that's an option that we have, right? Is to say, hey, look at guys. And again, we're learning, because I don't intend to, hopefully not like see this through to the end, and hopefully have a number of us very successful on the other side of this. But maybe it needs to be a little bit more strict, to your point, where there is consequences. Because right now there's no consequences. Like if you're not prepared to come into a live stream, there's no consequence for that. If you don't finish an assignment, there's no consequences for that. If you decide that you're not going to get a task done, or you just decide you don't want to do a task, there's no consequences for any of that. Maybe there needs to be consequences. So that, I mean, I see all your points, but I also think like, there's always a reason why, people aren't doing this stuff, right? So if you had advice on that, I'd be very helpful. But I do agree with you. Interaction would be great if we had more people showing up consistently on the live calls, and it would make it more engaging. But again, where are they?
Well,
So,
and what's the balance on time that gets allocated, right? Like if we have 10 hours of coursework a week, let's say, and plus streams ends up at 15 hours, like that's a reasonable amount of time. But I mean, as an entrepreneur, realistically, like 30 or 40 hours is not an unreasonable ask. It's what most programs sort of dictate at a bare minimum to kind of work through. But I mean, that also starts to disqualify people, because not everyone has the luxury of being able to do 40 or 50 hours a week. One of our companies we work with just got accepted a funding lab, and he has done nothing but work for like 16 or 18 hours a day for the last 10 days to get everything prepped for it. And like kudos to that guy. He's amazing. He's one of my favorite people now. But at the same point, like that's an unfair expectation for everyone if we want to be inclusive as well with everything. So like it's this really fine balance between both sides. I mean, if anyone comes up to me or talks to any of the coaches and says, hey, I'm doing the coursework, but I really want to push this further and go faster. Susahash, I think you're reverbing, feeding back. Somebody is. Once we actually, if you want to push it further, do things more, great, do the coursework. I have 90 hours a week of work to do for anyone else that wants to start a company. Like that's pretty much it. Like, don't run this at the pace that we set. Think of it like the foundation, right? This is, if there's 10 hours a week, great. If you need marketing help, okay, go build a marketing plan. Go figure exactly what it looks like. Go talk to Carla. Go dig into the details. If you know how to set up, the operations and logistics, talk to me. If you're curious about the tech, like just because we're doing things at a certain rate, in no way disqualifies you from pushing faster and farther and harder on everything else that you're doing, right? And I think that's a really important kind of thing to remember because, like, again, we can hold everyone accountable, but at the same point, like, there's a level of accountability that has to come from everyone individually, and just finding that balance between both it's a huge challenge for us because we could go either way, but it just depends on the type of people, the type of companies, the type of entrepreneurs that we want at the end. And that's a huge pain in the ass, honestly.
One thing I want to add,
your feedback is always excellent, by the way, and I'm still waiting to see. It's always awesome.
Okay, sorry to cut you there, but I wanted to just add one important thing. I feel like from what you guys are talking, I just kind of realized that one thing that we're kind of missing here is the ownership, right? Like when you are an owner and an entrepreneur, you have to love what you do. You have to be passionate. That's the reason you'll come back to it day after day, even though it's hard. But I feel like a lot of people, they're almost taking it very lightly. Like, are they really passionate where they want to just do this day in and day out and do anything and everything to make it happen? That needs to be there. That fire needs to be there. That, okay, you know what? And I get it. Like, people have like a lot of situation which doesn't allow them to take on that that time or whatever responsibility you have, because you have other responsibilities, which is okay. But at the same time, if you want to do this, as Paul said, you have to have that amount of time and that dedication, and that requires passion. So are people really owning the project? That's another thing I want to touch upon. That's another
and I think the really important thing too to that, Susahash, just to sort of tag on there, and like Shamsia, I'm going to use you as an example here. If you don't like the project that you've been dealt or whatever else, and you're like, hey, I really have a passion and I love the idea of like indoor skydiving. Like, and you want to step away from what you're doing on the current project you have and say, you know what, I want to put this guy. Awesome. Okay, let's go through. How do we prioritize this? How do we pivot really quickly? How do we put the structures together? What information gaps are like? We'll go through a super quick bullet list. We'll come up with a brand new to-do list. You go through. Like, it doesn't matter, what kind of setup it is, what the company is. It doesn't matter. Like Emery's philosophy when he kind of pitched all of this to me, at least, was focusing on entrepreneurs. So, like, at the end of the day, I genuinely don't care what anyone's project is, as long as it's awesome, as long as you're happy about it, as long as you can be passionate about it, and you think that it's within the realm of executing it. Like, I'm not going to start a marketing company for fairly obvious reasons at this point, because I sound like a broken record. But it's the same thing of, like, I'm not going to take up tailoring professionally, because, like, I have no bloody idea what I'm doing. But if there's something that anyone is passionate about and happy about, like, don't feel like you're stuck into a project. Like, do something that actually makes you happy. Like, that's half the point. You're still going to be days where it's miserable and it sucks and you're sort of stuck with everything. All of these things are true. But I genuinely believe that if you sort of find that, that passion for being an entrepreneur and you really just kind of want to build something out of yourself because you love seeing the progression and everything, great. Like, it doesn't matter what it is. I will help you build it personally. I will sit down with anyone for like 4 hours if you need a hard pivot like that and to go through it to be happy. Like, that's great. That's all that I want from, anyone that's here is just be happy about what you're doing, be passionate about it, and love what you're doing. Because at a certain point, like I make the breakfast bars because we have a couple of them. I've had that conversation where I don't know how to make a breakfast bar. I don't know anything about it. My intelligence when it comes to that is so negligible. It's like, does it taste good? Is it horrible for me? Like, that's about it. Like, those are my internal KPIs on that side. But I know that the people that started Cliff Bars, like, they're solving real life problems that address them and things that they were passionate about. And that's how, the whole climbing thing and all of that was sort of associated with the brand and reinforced. And, most great companies come out of people genuinely being happy to show up and do the work every day. And that's all that's kind of important. I think it becomes easier when you know that there's something that you just want to do. And at least for me, I know that when I don't want to wake up in the morning and do something or I'm not excited about it, that's when I'm usually in trouble. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, were you holding that question for a really long time?
No, I'm just raising my hands up because I don't want anyone else to just jump in, because I had something that I could take from you, what you just said. Yeah. Your point is excellent, and I think that's something that we do not acknowledge here, is that entrepreneurship, irrespective of the company that you're running, it's basically the principles and the techniques that you're learning, and how to for me as a scientist, it's like, how do I bridge the gap from science and tech to become making it more tangible and translating the the research. And I think that's where the entrepreneurship comes in play for me.
Yep.
But also taking into account what Tula just mentioned, I think most of us are used to a structure, like there is a start to the end point. So it's almost like a flow diagram. You enter the program, and then you attend the coursework, and then there's this first task, second task, third task, and there's marketing in between, and then there is everything's defined. Probably the structure that Tula mentioning is that it's all not given as a snapshot. So it's like we are building it as we go. Probably it could be a little difficult for some of us out here to picture exactly what is expected, as an entrepreneur in residence. So maybe if we could define that as to what we are here to learn, not just to launch the product. We are here to learn specific skills like raising funds, or business interaction, writing letters, marketing. Maybe if we define those principles, it might just make it a little more clear.
Yeah, and I think that's a really fair point of entrepreneurship being a skill. It's very, very fair. The problem that because like Susash and I have gone back and forth on this, because like we run an incubation program, like we take companies after this. Like I have this spreadsheet, and I find it hilarious now, but it's got like 85 different boxes of elements pertaining to like KPIs and products and UX and everything that you need in a company to be functional. And like it's terrifying, right? But we use it for sort of the sales and the introductory process of like, look, this is what you're getting into when you kind of come through all of this. All of this needs to be completed in about a year and a half ish. And like it's great on one side because it gives you sort of a foundational knowledge of what it kind of looks like, but there isn't a path, right? Like it's not a linear way to go about it. It's okay, well, we're focusing on marketing now, and then we're doing product development in conjunction to this, and then in parallel we're doing partnerships and channel sales and whatever else it is. So it's really, I agree with you, and I don't know how to do it. Like we can sit and go through marketing and how to do product development effectively, and best practices for these 15 things. We can go through like best practices for legal and what you should be spending money on and what you shouldn't be. But like all of that's just going to be a foundational thing, because all of the challenge of entrepreneurship, or at least building your own company, in my opinion, is always the context. Because you can say, well, we build a pitch deck, best practice, 8 to 12 slides. Here's what you need to address. Here's what you need to cover, and whatever. And like that's fine. Everyone kind of knows that now. But at the same point, that is totally an invalid thought process for pitching merchants, or for pitching suppliers, or for being able to put together, specific methodologies of marketing and brand awareness. Like, so like it's there, but it's also not simultaneously. So I would love to have sort of a baseline that's more structured and sort of goes through all of the steps and the elements of it. And then the context really, I feel like, has to be kind of added in by the coaches, of just like, hey, here's your 30,000 foot view. Here's pretty much what you should know basic wise. Let's use legal. Here's how you incorporate a company in your respective area. Here's what you should be doing for taxes. Here, IP. You go through all those things, and then you just kind of have to figure out the rest on your own in conjunction with reaching out to people. Like, does that kind of structure of like super high level knowledge and then context done in a much more one-on-one setting, like, is that sort of sounds like a better option, or would that be more accessible or more on track with kind of what you're thinking?
Before you answer, just really quick, I apologize. I have to excuse myself. I think this is an awesome conversation. I'm going to listen to the live stream at the end of my meetings here.
Excellent.
One thing I will say that I think we can do a better job of being very strict with ourselves in terms of delivering all the things that are on the agenda that we released. So again, even though, and I actually agree with Tula that what we can do is also hold the EIRs accountable for finishing those assignments, and we'll stay on top of everybody to see, like, are you getting through these things? Even though I agree 100%, Paul, that not every assignment is actually really relevant to every different startup, because it's not everybody's going to do every type of marketing that we're gonna nuts and bolts. Not everybody's going to use Shopify. Not everybody's going to use WordPress. But we'll do the best to sort of at least keep people accountable to doing something. So as long as they're doing something, then I think we
well, win. And that's it.
But anyway, guys, thank you.
Yeah, Emery, have a good one, sir.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks,
it from
guys.
here.
Awesome.
And that's sort of what ends up happening, right? Like you start creating separate tracks for companies. So e-commerce would run a separate track as, you know, a SaaS company would. And there's a way to make it work. I just want to know, like, what would actually be more accessible for you?
For me, actually, when I started this, it was also new. So I was really lost. So I was just asking Rachel, you know what, we should probably just write down step-by-step protocol as to how would you start a company and the end of the company, all the steps in between. Like if like Rachel could tell me how she started local provisions, like how she started finding vendors, suppliers. So kind of makes me understand how this works. And then later on, when I could just apply that into my field, like a standard operating procedure, or as you said, you know, you improvise, just to get a hang of how the field of entrepreneurship works. So for me, that could work. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Well, I think what you're saying, Shamsia, is that maybe presenting some more case studies specific would actually be helpful. See, like that's something I think that's an excellent idea. Like we can try that. So thank you for bringing that point out. So we'll absolutely try to incorporate that. The challenge is this, because there is no, like we were saying earlier, that there's no playbook. Every business is different, right? I think Rachel was saying that, you know, there's no playbook, and she's right. Like every business is different, and ultimately, you know, I look at it as a, you know, problem that needs to be solved. Because every day you'll have different challenges, different problems, which is unique to you. And sometimes there are similarities, and you can go and learn about those, but there will always be unique things, right? So ultimately, you have to be a problem solver, and you know, that's how I approach it. I try to fix like what problem I'm facing in front of me, and just solve that, and that's how I approach it. But what I think we can do is that kind of, you know, maybe create a collection of different case studies to help you guys to learn those different ones that are kind of common. That way, you know, you guys have access. And if there's something specific, I think honestly the best solution is ask the coaches, approach us. That's why we're here.
No, I completely agree with what you said. What I said was probably some of the students might, because when I started this, that's what I was having a dilemma about. But now that I'm in here and I'm attending these classes, and that's what they cover in these courses, right? They give us these case studies, they give us links to go back, read up more. So there's a lot of work that you have to do behind the scenes as well. So it's once you set your feet in this world, like, of course, we are here like 3-4 months. Now I'm pretty comfortable. Now I understand how this works. I'm like, okay, it's sort of like become a part of me now. So I know who to reach out to. I know what I have to go back and read. I know how this works, because that's what Emery and all the other coaches have been covering in those sessions behind the scenes on Tuesdays, giving us case studies and links as well.
I think too, something that you just need to come to terms with, just like within yourself, is that there isn't one clear path forward. There's 1,000 different ways to do something, and you just need to become comfortable with that. Because like, I felt that same way too. I wanted to start my own business for a couple of years, even before starting Local Provisions. And I would go to all kinds of like events and like workshops and stuff, and like talk to other entrepreneurs. And anytime I would ask like how do you start your business, or how do you start a business? The answer is literally, and I hate this piece of advice, but it's like, oh, well, you just have to start. And it's like, okay, but how? Like, how do I do it? And it's like, you literally just have to start doing things and figuring it out. And eventually, like day by day, like the next step becomes clear. You can't always see like 100 feet in front of you, but sometimes it's like, okay, you do something. Ooh, that didn't work. Let's try this. Oh, okay, this worked. That gets me to the next day. And then the next day and the next day, you just build on it. And then like you look back 3 months and you're like, oh, I have a business now, and I've sold things and I've made some money. Like, there was no clear path forward. Like, it was just like, you need to like figure it out and just start talking to people and just put it out there. And if it works, it will take you forward. If it's not going to work, it's probably not going to work, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And I mean, Tula has put another comment in chat here. So in terms of how I think the scoring system should be strictly applied for each EIR going forward, if there is a clear assignment, for example, the content calendar we should be working on for our personal brands. I think that's always interesting. So back to FI, because they're, you know, their scoring system generally has no threes, and it's from an investment perspective. So on a scale of 1 to 5 with nothing in the middle, you either have to make a positive or a negative decision associated with it, from would you invest in them or not, essentially is the gist of it, right? So when we're looking at the diverse businesses that it is, like, we're designing businesses that shouldn't be invested in. So are we looking at it from a consumer's perspective? Like, do we really want to look at one of your brands at this point of saying, well, now I'm going to judge this in terms of my personal ability and my relatability to a brand? Like, that doesn't feel like it helps a whole lot. If we look at it from a supplier standpoint, like, that's a little bit different. But yeah, I think now the follow-up comment of, I totally agree with Shamsia. The program has really assisted in raising awareness of key areas of running a business. It's an eye-opener and really leaves you with countless ideas what to do next by yourself. I think that's absolutely true. And one of the big things that I know we really wanted to do was build the community a little bit. It doesn't have to be a formal thing, but it's just all of us are entrepreneurs. Like, I will happily talk to anyone that reaches out to me. I know that everyone here is pretty much the same way, because we're here to try to help people, and we want all entrepreneurs to be, successful and to work through things. We all kind of chose this because of whatever our own personal reasons are, but like, this is not an easy way to do anything. This is absolutely a way more difficult way to make a living, is building your own company, without question. And yeah, I think that the biggest feedback so far, there seems to be an agreement at least, is like the higher picture, more of a snapshot view of like the 30,000 feet of different areas of what you should be focusing on, and then just how to actually go through like a priority list in terms of where time, energy, and money get spent. Does that sort of seem to line up with both of your feelings, Shamsia, Rachel,
Absolutely.
and Tula in chat as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Perfect.
Awesome. I'll make sure that Emma gets it done, and I get to bring Carla back now, which is excellent. I honestly, like, I don't even remember. I know Emery asked like 9 questions before he left, and I have no recollection of any of them.
I have my 2 cents.
Yeah, what do you got?
I have more like 10 cents. I have a lot of things. Hopefully I can remember it. I'm going to pull an Emery on myself. So with most of the things that were mentioned, I agree with, and it makes sense. But a lot of them also I don't agree with necessarily. And it could just be me not understanding the feedback properly, or just like my opinion on it. But just based on the conversations now, it almost feels to me as one of the coaches as if there's this expectation of this accelerator to be like a course, how you would go to university or college or something, where you have like your semesters, you get textbooks for everything, you write your tests. If you don't do your homework, there's a teacher that, like tells you you're going to fail. And I don't see this accelerator program like that at all. Definitely, like some aspects, but I see our role as coaches here as exactly that. We coaches. I'm not someone's mother that's going to ask you, Shamsia, why did you not do this assignment? Or this is going to be the consequences if you don't do something. Because sure, there won't be consequences like you getting kicked out of the program or anything, but ultimately it's your business and your future. Those are the consequences. And it's not something that we can enforce on anyone if they're going to participate or not. It's just like, okay, well, we are here. We are doing our best. Definitely there's a lot of things that we can improve on and that can get better, but why should we do all these things if there's so little participation and people actually joining meetings and reaching out to coaches and making use of these extra resources and knowledge that we are just like, yeah, please take my knowledge. It's almost like the opposite of begging, like we're begging you to take our stuff from me. But I just feel like, like the EIRs are not consistently, and not all of them are making use of that. But now we have to continue, adjusting and putting more in and doing more things. But if even with what we're doing at the moment, the response and involvement is so inconsistent, that's just something that bugged me a little bit.
Well, and I think that it's important to establish a baseline, right? So, like, let's say we adopt the model of doing like the 30,000 foot view. If we use, Tula and Rachel and Shamsia as sort of the baseline of what the expectation is work gets done, it gets done well, it gets put together, and the business moves forward. Like, that should be a fairly reasonable kind of scoring rubric to put together of saying, well, the work got done, it was done intelligently, and the research is solid. Great. Yeah. And then outside of that, sort of whoever wants to push and actually build something, like, you have more time with us in the grand scheme of everything. Like, we can't force anyone to, kind of put the effort in and do it. And like, that's okay. But there's a reason why a lot of pre-seed programs have the attrition rates that they do, relative to like VC funded programs like YC. But like, for entrepreneurs, people that are unsure about entrepreneurship, it's tough. It's absolutely not for everyone. I'd love to have everyone be an entrepreneur. I think that there's way more positives than negatives outside of it, but I don't get irritated by it anymore. Like, my consulting rate is generally about $220 an hour. I'll happily talk to any entrepreneur for free. Like, if somebody wants to make use of it, cool. If not, cool. Like, no problem. I'm not here to force anyone to do anything. None of us are. Like, if you want to do it, awesome.
Yeah.
I'm happy to sit down and build an entire business with someone in the span of a day. Like, cool. But I think for the EIRs that really want to be here and they really want to like get stuff going and for their company, I think that a bit more generalized knowledge at a high level, and then more reinforcement from the coaches, with more clear expectations of just like, hey, this is what we expect. We expect that the work every week's going to take 10 or 15 hours. Do the assignments. That's it. Like, that's kind of as simple as it is, I think, is just a bit more broad and a bit more of like, here's a reasonable expectation of what we should ask for. Rachel, Shamsia, does that sound about right? Is that okay?
Yeah, I think it sounds good to me.
Do you have any other overreaching criticisms of us, any of us, the program? You can also say no, send us a message privately. Like, don't feel obligated at this point to be like, well, this guy Susahosh, let me tell you, his lighting on a stream just really upsets me.
I'm sorry. I was trying something, okay, guys?
Don't try it
It was
again.
bothering my
Just
eyes.
get
Like,
stuck with
it's
it.
really dark here. Like, so I tried this thing, and then my I'm just like going like this as you guys are talking. So I'm like, okay, let me turn this thing off. Sorry. Please continue.
No, I think at the end of the day, like if you're going to be successful in this program or even in business in general, you just have to really want it. And I think that goes back to the passion thing. Like, if you're not passionate about it, it's kind of like, why are you even like half-assing it, so to speak? Like, it might just not be for you, and that's okay, right? It's either just like do it, go all in for the 6 months, or at least give it as much effort as you can, given your circumstance, or otherwise it's like, you might as well just call it, right? And just say, you know what, this isn't for me, and like, that's okay. Not everyone is going to be an entrepreneur, and that's okay.
And that's it, Rachel. Like what you said is like, when I did my first startup, it was almost like, 12 years ago. So I'm not that, I'm old, but I'm not that old. So it was almost 12 years ago. And, that startup, after like a year or so, I stopped. And then I took a break. I went and worked. And eventually I came back. I knew this is what I wanted to ultimately do with my life. But at the same time, I knew that was not the right time, and I didn't know enough. And I had to say, like, I got to stop, right? So that's also important to recognize. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
But you have to give it some time. You have to learn the skills. You have to see if it's not working for you. You have to put in the time and effort, and also fail to realize this is not for you. But you just gotten in. It's just been 3 months, so it's too soon to really say, this is not for you. You have to work this.
You have to stick to it. And if sticking to things is not your thing, then you realize it's not for you. Like, you have to stick to things to do entrepreneurship. And also with failure, like, I've said this before in previous talks, that, Facebook, they have this motto that, fail fast, right? That's it, just fail fast. So if something is going to work, it'll work. Otherwise, just quickly try it, see if it works or not. And then, either learn from it and apply, or just move on, right? Do something else. So whatever it is, do it fast. Don't, spend forever stuck to something that's not working. Yeah.
No, I worked for somebody that did that way back in the day. They were working on a project. They hadn't even launched the product yet, and they were on the R&D phase for like 6 or 7 years, and just tinker. They just they just wanted to tinker with it. They wanted it to be perfect. It's like, the market changes, especially in tech. Shockingly, at least once in 6 or 7 years, like, oh no, it's fine. This idea, whatever, no problem. They just wanted to tinker. They didn't want to build a business. And that's okay.
I'm a perfectionist by nature, so at least when I was in university, and like, my assignments had to be perfect. It's like, how do I perfect it? So I used to spend hours and days and nights like like working on them to try to make it perfect. But what I realized, and that was kind of my detriment in my first startup, because I was trying to make it perfect, but that's what I didn't realize. And another quote from actually Mark Cuban is, perfection is the enemy of entrepreneurship. So if it's an enemy of business, if you try to make it perfect, it's not going to work. Build something, put it out there, iterate this. And again, Paul touched on the very important point of market changes. You could think of the perfect product. You could try to perfect it, but by the time you perfect it, market has changed somewhere else now, so it doesn't matter. So always keep iterating. Don't try to make it perfect. So,
so anyone else, any thoughts, questions, concerns? Otherwise, we might do this 2 weeks in a row where we actually just end this a little bit early.
Wow.
And shockingly, it happens as soon as Emery leaves. It's like, all right, we've done 15 minutes when he's not here. Awesome. Let's call it a day.
It's like a classroom as we're kids.
We're the substitute teachers. It's excellent.
The teacher is out, so we just
we're making up for all the time that Emery took up.
I can just see him later today when he's reviewing the VOD. He's like, no, Rachel, do a presentation. Somebody bring PowerPoint up.
He was asking Carla to read a chapter from her book, so probably.
Yeah, you know what? I think the audio cut out for me on that side, so from a production standpoint, I don't think we could do that.
But I love the idea though, Shamsia. Someday, we would love to hear that, read a paragraph or something, do a reading.
My internet connection suddenly just got I don't know what's going on.
You've got to stammer there a bit, Carla. It's not convincing.
Yeah, that's it. I still want to know how to get a signed copy of your book, Carla. I mean, I look forward to it ending up on a bestsellers list somewhere, and I would like a personally addressed signed copy that I'll pay extra for.
Okay. I'm actually quite nervous. Whenever people speak about writing books, everyone always says how long it took and it's such a process and everything, and that's making me question my own abilities now, because I was like, what if it's so shit? That's why I did it so quickly. And the actual writing was pretty easy for me and it came natural, but to actually now send it out to people and take that next step is very scary. So it's a big fear that I'll have to overcome.
Yeah. And all the reviews and all the everything that follows. Yeah.
Well, that's it. Once it's out though. You can't go back and be like, oh, I'll just modify this just one more time. Just everyone send me back your books. I have an edited copy. It'll be fine. We'll go to the second edition. It'll be all right.
I'll publish it and then also just go live in some stranger's basement for a few months.
Dude.
That's not a bad idea.
Just disappear.
That would be better. Just very slowly and incrementally, we all end up in Susahash's basement. Be like, now the end of this month, it's Carla and Susahash in the basement. We'll have Emery over there. I'll fly back over. It'll be great.
I'll read the book and I'll put up reviews.
Yep.
Thank you. Well, I'm probably going to force everyone to do that. And then as the positive ones, I need to approve it first.
No,
and I need a personally signed version.
Of all of the university habits, having the professor forcing students to buy the book is not the way we want this to go.
I won't make you buy it. I'll gift it to you. And if you're struggling to write a review, then I'll write it for you. And I'm making things very easy for you.
This is excellent. Absolutely not skewing the brand at all for it. But the secrets like this and more now in Mind Fucked by Marketing, coming out by Carla in the next couple of weeks here.
Work smart, not hard.
Yeah, as many plugs as we can find. But I think at that note, if everyone's okay with it, we're happy to call the stream. Everyone can go on about their Fridays. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend. Thank you as always, Shamsia, Rachel, and Tula for your involvement, for showing up. And giving your feedback, because it's awesome. We want to do the best that we can for you. So the more honest and the more shitty things you can say about us or the process to help us improve, that works for me. Sounds good.
I think we just helped ourselves here, Rachel and I. Yeah.
Good.
Mission accomplished.
Excellent.
Thank you so much, Paul, Sahash, and Carla and Rachel. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you, everyone. I hope
Bye.
everyone has a wonderful weekend. I will be working all weekend. If anyone needs anything, feel free to shoot me a message.
Likewise, always
Same
reach out to
here.
me. Always around.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.